Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to call our regular meeting of our Town Planning Zoning Commission to order. Today is Monday, January 6, 2025 at 6:32 p.m. We can still say Happy New Year, so Happy New Year, everyone. Hope you all had a nice holiday. It was relaxing and you got to spend time with family and friends. I am Rob Klee. I'm the chair of our Woodbridge Town Plan and Zoning Commission. Other members of the commission who are with us here tonight are Yoni Zamir, Paul Schatz, Andrew Skolnick. Andrew's not here. Jeff Kennedy, Kathy Hunder, and Aaron Hoffman. And we may have Andrew and Ben joining us. As always, we're ably supported by Chris Sullivan, our town land use analyst and zoning enforcement officer. I'd like to share with our folks here, and I think, am I the only one with a copy, or did everyone get a copy?
I gave everybody a copy.
Yeah, so you've seen the news that Cynthia Gibbons has formally submitted her resignation from the TPZ to the town clerk. I think that will become official at the meeting of the Board of Selectmen. I had a chance to chat with her this afternoon and thank her for her service, which has been wonderful over the past year and much appreciated. And it gives me reason to thank all of you for all of your service. It is a new year as well, but this is a lot goes on this commission, and it takes a lot of time and effort from all of you, and it is greatly appreciated. So I want to make sure you knew that. Our agenda tonight has been on the town's website. Tonight's agenda includes a public hearing on Toll Northeast 5 Corp.'s application for a special exception permit for excavation, removal, filling, grading, and processing of materials pursuant to Section 3.3N of our zoning regulations for their active adult residential community at 1722 Litchfield Turnpike, and that will be a public hearing that will commence shortly. In new business, folks probably saw that we are receiving an application from attorney John Nuff on behalf of Angelo Malisi for a special exception site plan for a multifamily development at 804 Fountain Street pursuant to Section 3.4E and Section 6.3 of our zoning regulations, and a related special exception application to modify the requirements for a gable, hip, or gambrel roof under Section 3.4.5 of the regulations. Just to be clear, this is a moment in time where we are just receiving that application. There is no public hearing tonight, nor is there a public comment session on this application. We're going to be scheduling all of that during our new business discussion later this evening. In our work session, we'll then address the Toll Northeast 5 special exception permit, and we'll talk. I do see we have Derek Waskowitz here regarding the activities that are going on at 110 Luciani Street, and then we have some other work to do in our work session. So with that sort of outline of what's to come, let's start with our public hearing for the special exception permit for excavation and other things at 1722 Litchfield Turnpike. That is first up. So a representative from Toll Brothers is here. If you could come forward and sign in, right, Chris? And
Yep.
State your name for your record and give us a brief synopsis of your the reasons for your application for this special exception permit.
So good evening, members of the commission. My name is Mike Samola with Toll Brothers, Director of Land Development. I am here to apply for an extension, or actually isn't it technically an extension of the permit?
I think this is a new one again.
Okay, so a new application for the grading permit for our project on Bradley Road and Litchfield Turnpike. There are no changes to the prior applications. It's similar to the past two we've applied for. We are in the process of completing our grading work on the site. It is largely complete at this point, and just due to the timing of the permit, we have the necessity to apply for a new permit to complete the work. But no changes have occurred to the plans since subsequent to the original approval or last year's. So we're applying for really the closeout and last permit for the work.
Great. Thank you. Members of the commission, you're welcome to ask questions.
This is the side opposite of where most of the units have been developed, right? Is
Correct.
that west or north, right?
It is the
West.
north side of Bradley Road, correct?
All right,
Which
so-
we call our phase 2 of the
So
project.
it's your phase two. The first phase looks mostly completed.
Yes.
visually? Okay.
Yes.
So there's no grading that needs to be done there. This is across the street, and this
Yes.
is just a continuation of it.
That's correct. That's correct. And the grading is, as I said, it's largely complete. All of the mass grading, excavation is about 95% complete. The roadway has all of the utilities installed, and it is now paved.
Okay.
Other questions from members of the commission? Seeing none? Okay, thank you. That was, as requested, a succinct summary of the plan going forward, and we do appreciate all the work that you've been doing. It's looking great.
Thank you.
All right, so the next step is to have our public comment portion of our public hearing. And this public hearing is for the purpose of listening to the comments from the public. Anyone who wishes to will have up to 3 minutes for their brief statements into the record. I just note that our rules of our TPZ is that the TPZ members and the applicants will not be answering any questions you may raise, but your public statements and any written comments that were submitted to the town will become part of the public record for our TPZ's consideration of this application for the excavation, grading, et cetera, special exception from the Toll Brothers folks. As a reminder to everyone, off-the-record communication with a member of the commission on the merits of this application is prohibited. So I ask that members of the public please keep your comments brief and focused on the proposed special exception permit, and try to avoid unreasonable repetition so we can hear all of your concerns that you and/or your neighbors may have. So do we have anyone here for public comment on the application of Toll Brothers? And if you could sign in on the sign-in sheet.
I did. Yep.
State your name for the record, and I'll get your 3 minutes started.
My name is Kathy Wick, and I'd like to acknowledge and appreciate the statement by Chairman Klee at the beginning of the amount of work that happens in this commission, and from the point of view of a resident of the town, the importance of that work to the daily lives of town residents. And my comments are really about comments at public hearings. I think it's unfortunate that the board restricts the ability of the public to comment to only public hearings and only to the specific topic that the public hearing is addressed to, because I think the work of the board, it might help the work of the board to receive more regular general feedback from the public, as all other town boards and commissions do. And to that end, I do have a comment about the POCD process, and there isn't another avenue for making that, which is why I've come here.
But I will have to ask you that we do have in front of us an application for a special permit from the Toll Brothers, so if you
Right.
could please have your comments focus on that pending application.
Well, the POCD process focuses on everything that happens in the town, and it's my view that, and obviously everyone knows that POCD stands for Plan of Conservation and Development, conservation being primary in that name, and I would suggest that it seems odd to me that the Town Conservation Commission is not centrally involved in the POCD process. They are treated similarly to all other boards and commissions. They're asked for their input, certainly, but it seems to me that it would be appropriate for them to have a seat at the table.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who have a comment on the application before us from the Toll Brothers for their application for excavation, removal, and filling and grading at 1722 Litchfield Turnpike? And if you could state your name for the record,
Sharon Ducat, 94 Center Road, Woodbridge, Connecticut.
and please sign in. Thank you. And when you are ready, I will start your timer.
I am a frequent passerby of this new project, and I just have one comment. and that I think that there could be more done aesthetically with the retention pond to make it an aesthetic place, and rather than just a pit where water gets retained when it's excessive. And I think it would help the general look of the place, and it would be an addition rather than a detraction from the general environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional members of the public who would like to place a comment on the application by 1722 Litchfield Turnpike?
Good evening.
If you could sign in and state your name for the record, and then I will start your timer.
Thank you, Commissioner Klee. I have a long name. Sorry, it takes a second here. Okay, thank you, as advertised. It took long. My name is Diana McCarthy Burcury. I'm at 18 Ranch Road. I'm a native resident here in Woodbridge. I echo the comments that were just presented by both residents and neighbors here. I am also a member of the Sustainability Committee, the Conservation Commission, and the TAC, who's looking at the country club, the former country club of Woodbridge. I do agree that planning and development are really key features in our community, and I think working together in lockstep to make sure that projects like what's happening with the Toll Brothers and others that are under consideration are really important, that we make sure that we are working together and that we are doing it in unison and in harmony with what the town is looking for. In the zoning regulations, just to help back up what I am saying here, are intended to guide land use activities in Woodbridge in ways that will maintain and enhance the community character and protect the public health, safety, and welfare. In recognition of the need to balance numerous factors when establishing revisions in zoning regulations, it's given careful consideration to the following, and the first thing listed there is protecting natural resources, and I think that's key. Protecting existing properties and neighborhoods. I think the decisions that you make here are important because you are weighing in on how our community exists right now and what it could look like potentially in the future, and giving changes overnight or giving special exemptions, not that I disagree with what you're asking for, can really change the makeup and the look of our community and the feel and the DNA of our community overnight, even if it's represented as incremental. It should be very thoughtful. It should be done with stakeholder engagement. My background is in construction and development from a sustainability perspective. It is what I teach. It is what I train constantly in this great country. And I think we can do that here in Woodbridge too. And I am for housing. I am for having a great, strong community. And I think I look forward to the opportunity to be able to work with you more closely, given that opportunity, given more chance to collaborate on the POCD and other things. So I think it's a great showing that we have all of our members who are not hospitalized today from the Conservation Commission here to listen in so that we can contribute to helping protect those natural resources, which is the first thing in your charge. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have comments on the application under 3.3N of our regulations presented by 1722 Litchfield Turnpike for excavation, removal, filling, and grading?
Good evening. How are you? Thought you'd be out of here sooner, huh? Sorry about that. So Rachel Guerra, I'm a Woodbridge resident. I serve on the Conservation Commission here to obviously support my colleagues and talk about, sorry.
And
Go ahead.
I am going to ask again.
Yes.
Though I'm not going to stop you if you're, for your 3 minutes, that I
Sure.
do want all of our comments in this public comment portion of our hearing for 1722 Litchfield Turnpike to be focused on their application.
Yes, the Toll Brothers project is lovely to see. The work is going along very nicely. It is a nice use of that area. But I feel like future projects that are being considered or evaluated should not come or be decided on until there is a plan of conservation and development in place. And I think it needs to be a more collaborative approach with input from residents and from input from all the stakeholders, not just this board. I realize the work you do is very important, time-consuming, but echoing what Diana said, you are deciding on what this town looks like for the next 20 to 50 years. And your decisions have a big impact. And we can't let our housing ideology get in the way and fast-track things. I was just here at an open house recently that SLR hosted, and there was an overwhelming number of red dots on this type of housing.
And again, I need you to focus in on the application in front of us, which is an application from
So-
1722 Litchfield Turnpike for under section 3.3N for excavation, removal, filling, and grading that site.
Sure, and so in connection to all future housing development like Toll Brothers or anything else, we ask that we have a seat at the table and have a more collaborative approach with the voices of our Woodbridge residents in mind and not just the voices of a few people at this table. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public who'd like to make a comment on the application for excavation, removal, filling, and grading under 3.3N at 1722 Litchfield Turnpike?
Good evening. My name is Beck Swanson, and I'm a
And if you could sign in,
resident
please. Thank you.
I'm sorry?
If you could please sign in.
I'd be happy to. My comment has to do specifically with these drainage trenches that they're building. I would hope that this board would be more cognizant of what it's going to look like when things are finished. Going through two swamp basins to get onto Bradley Road is not a very pleasant thing, and it's not a very good gateway for Bradley Road. And I would have hoped that somebody on this board would have been more attentive to those sorts of details. I'm sure they're doing a good job building them, but it's always going to be just a wet basin. And it's not very pleasant. I'm certain you wouldn't want it in your neighborhood. That's it.
Thank you very much. Do you have any additional public comment? Thank you.
Okay, my name is Paula Swanson. I live on 6 Clark Road, and this has to do with the excavation and the swamp. And I just want to bring to your attention that there's a things called like artificial wetlands, and I think would be important for the town to consider that and include that in your planning and zoning. We're creating more and more impermeable surfaces on the area in which there's a lot of impermeable surfaces due to the glacier formation of where we are, and it's important to take that into account because it will affect the rainwater and it will affect flooding areas we already have issues with flood areas. So I just would like to have for the record here that when the same way that on the zoning, on housing is saying, on developers is saying, to allow a percentage to affordable housing, I think we need to allow the drainage of water to maintain a certain balance. Do you have any questions what about say what I just said? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, this is a very nice town, and I like this town. I think this town has a rich natural resource, and I think it's important not to take that for granted. Once you change it, it's hard to go back. And it might feel like we have that abundantly right now, but just watch out, because nature is always stronger. We have no control. Okay.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comments? I'll ask again, are there any additional public comments on our application at 1722 Litchfield Turnpike? And as is customary, I ask a third time, and seeing no, then I think we'll need a motion to close our public hearing. But before I do, who are we seating tonight?
You don't have to seat anybody.
We're all right. Oh, yes. So no, sorry.
All members are here.
Yeah. So moved by Paul Schatz. Do I have a second? Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing our public hearing, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So we have now closed our public hearing on the application by Toll Brothers for their special exception permit for excavation, removal, filling at 1722 Litchfield Turnpike. Thank you all for that public hearing. Thanks to the commission for being good listeners. Thanks to members of the public for your comments, which will be incorporated. Sorry. My time's up. Your public comments will be incorporated into our deliberations once we get to our work session at the towards the end of our meeting tonight. And thank you to the applicant for your presentation. And that is it for our public hearing. All right. So next on our agenda is new business. We are in receipt of an application or applications for a special exception site plan to construct a multifamily housing development pursuant to sections 3.4E and section 6.3 of our zoning regulations. And in addition, a special exception application to modify our requirements for gable, hip, or gambrel roofs as permitted under section 3.4.5 of the regulations.
Commissioner, can I just ask a question before you continue? Are we going to be doing any more than scheduling a public hearing for this? And if so, I will recuse myself consistent with my prior recusal.
We're just scheduling a public hearing.
Well, you're gonna schedule and then tell me who you're gonna refer it to.
Yeah, because if you want to just step out for a few minutes, that'd be fine.
So in that case, Aaron would be up.
Okay.
See.
So we need to schedule a public hearing, but we also, because they've provided, which you now all should have at your seats, various plans, including, although you sent us the traffic study. So there's a few things we usually do with these types of applications, including referrals to
Right.
our town.
So what they did, in the interest of saving some trees, we have 2 copies of the traffic study in hard copy and 2 copies of the engineering study in hard copy. We also have them in a PDF form, which I'll post on the website and whatnot. So that way we have one for the file and one to give to a traffic consultant and one to give to your project engineer. And then you have the affordability plan, which I thought you might want to recommend to the planner.
To our town
Justin.
planning
yeah,
consultant.
Justin
Yeah.
Accountant, yes.
So just so everyone's clear, that there are going to be, it's both scheduling our public hearing, but also referring to our town's consultants, traffic engineering, and our town planning consultant for their guidance and review of the documents that are coming before us.
And because it abuts New Haven, we also have to send it off to the Council of Governments. They're being very firm about the fact that they want it 30 days prior to when you schedule the public hearing. So given that time frame, you honestly need to schedule a public hearing for March, which in reality gives, it's a large plan, more time for your experts to review them and get comments in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that makes sense. So that would be our regular meeting
It
in
would
March.
be your regular, if you so choose to hold it. I don't know how many people you're going to have coming out. You know, at this point, you don't have any other applications coming in,
That's fine.
so.
I think a regular meeting makes sense.
Regular meeting, okay.
What date is that?
March 3rd?
March 3rd.
Okay, so I will, so in my motion, should I do all the things at once?
Sure.
So I will move to schedule a public hearing on March 3rd at our regular meeting of our Planning and Zoning Commission, and move to refer this application, the application package, to our town's engineering consultant, our town's traffic consultant, and our town's planning consultant. Anything else?
Should the town attorney see the affordability plan for the language included? Because this is their language, not ours, right?
Right, that was gonna go to the planning consultant unless you want it to go to town council as well.
Anyone have a view on that?
Did your motion get seconded?
Not yet.
We gotta second the motion.
Yeah, have the attorney look at it.
Second
I'll
the motion.
second.
Second, sorry.
It's been seconded, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Jeff, do you have discussion?
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Do you have discussion?
Yeah, if we could send the affordability plan to the town attorney, it'd be helpful, just for review of the enforceability of the contract and any provisions we should be made aware of. I'm sure the planning folks will also have seen many of these in the past and find them to be compliant or whatever, but it'd be helpful for our own attorney to take a look at it too. Thank you.
Okay. So, do I need to amend?
If you accept that
I accept,
modification.
yes, I accept that modification. Paul, do you?
I guess I will.
Okay, so moved. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Seeing none. All right, so March 3rd, and Chris, you'll handle all the logistics of getting all the right things to the right people.
Yes.
Terrific. Then I think we can bring Andrew back. And do you want these back? 'Cause you can't.
Oh, you can just leave them and I'll get them after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Thank you. We're now moving to our work session, and first up in our work session is consideration of the Toll Northeast 5 Corporation application for a special exception permit for excavation, removal, filling, grading, and processing the earth products pursuant to section 3.3N. I will move for approval of that application.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any members' discussion now? From our public comment, there was mention of interest in the stormwater
The retention
structures
pond.
and the retention ponds. I believe when they originally came in, we actually talked about those and what was required from an engineering perspective and whether there were alternatives. And
I
vaguely remember that as well.
And we got comments from our town engineer in that respect.
on what was feasible on that site. So I think we were advised appropriately, and that was,
In general, those types of ponds will also fill in the grasses that are growing around it will thicken, they have to do a lot of grading and it kills everything, and then in my experience, they generally either plant or allow native grasses to start, and thickens and somewhat hides the contours of the man-made contours of those types of detention ponds, and often they look, they're indistinguishable from a natural. Aside from the outflow concrete, they tend to look like a feature or a pond. So I would assume that something similar would happen there over the course of time.
That's what I've seen in general as well.
Can we ask Toll Brothers, is it appropriate to ask if they plan to do any plantings around it to make it look aesthetically a certain way? Or can we not ask that question?
Yeah, because
You've closed your hearing, so
We've
you
already
can't
closed our
ask
hearing,
any-
yeah.
And I don't think that has to do with the grading of this application.
no, and yeah,
But
any further discussion?
What are artificial wetlands? I'm curious what that is. Something you have familiarity?
in my experience, you can have anything, any man-made created wetland can become a protected wetland if it exists for long enough and species that live in wetlands start living in there. So in other projects that I've done where you have a drainage ditch that, was created by a neighbor, and that now you have, wetland dwelling species in there, that becomes a protected, even though it's possible that the resident was talking about something separate, but in my experience that, these types of construction features end up becoming wetlands in the sense that there are lots of protected species that end up living there, for better or for worse, in terms of development.
In restorations or activities in general, you can create wetlands that weren't there or were maybe there and were degraded or were somehow impacted or so. And you can engineer, a wetland where there was none, or take a degraded wetland that isn't flowing well or is overrun with invasive species or other sorts of things and restore it. Is also a way that I've also heard of.
Can you put
engineering.
goldfish in there?
So
No.
if they're,
Those are not likely native.
yeah.
Oh, I was only kidding.
For the purposes of
Woman in the back.
Sorry, for the purposes of this application, again, as I recall, our discussion at length with them, the initial application, we talked about it, the drainage there. There was a big discussion about the wetlands and the fact that it exists and, how they intend to manage it. And they certainly presented us with, given the size and scale of this company that's investing there, with what our engineers told us was sufficient management of the wetlands and of the drainage that was gonna go on there. I mean, in recognition of the fact that you're putting something there that wasn't there before, impervious surfaces and such. Just like if you were putting a tennis court and houses up here, or a driveway or whatever. But it seems to me that the consideration was made when they planned this development, regarding the management of the water.
Yeah.
Any additional discussion on the application before us? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstention? All right. Thank you. Keep going forward. All right, next up on our work session agenda is a discussion with Derek Iwaskowitz. And hopefully I'm pronouncing it. Yeah, if you could come forward, introduce yourself, sign in. We would love to hear an update on your excavation work at 110 Luciani Street and your efforts to find a place for your excess materials.
Yes, Darius Iwaskowitz, Connecticut, or not Connecticut, it's Luciani Properties. The town of Prospects was supposed to hold a special meeting during the holiday period, which didn't happen. So their next regularly scheduled meeting is January 13th, where we should have approval so we could proceed to move the fill from Luciani to Prospect. And we'll be moving machines end of this week, beginning of next week to prepare for that.
Great. Any questions from members of the commission?
Just note for the record that you did get a letter, which I distributed from
Yes.
Rosalie Rowan,
Thank you.
and I did furnish a
Do the
copy.
residents know that you're moving the fill out?
I mean, yeah, that's what they're waiting for.
But so they know it's coming next week or 2 weeks?
Oh, that's not for me to notify, but
Does anyone notify them?
No,
Or just, okay.
but I'm sure some of them are watching this evening, and I am sure that I will get a phone call tomorrow from others. So,
Very good.
So just so that I have it clear, sir, thank you for coming. The general time frame is that meeting is going to happen in the next week or two?
yeah, so I mean, just like here, like he just applied for whatever process. Over there, you have to go to wetlands first, and then it's approved with the permit. So it's not, I won't have to ever ask in that town. As here, it's separate. It's a special permit for excavation. So once I clear that hurdle, then I pull the general building permit, and we're allowed to cut the trees, put up the silk fabric, and move the material.
Do you have a rough idea of the timeline for that process?
Well, once we have approvals and there's no like big snowstorms, but it would take 2 weeks, maybe sooner, just to move the material. But then, as we said, we have the general building permit, and we'll still be constructing the dwellings after we move the excess material.
And you expect the approval to come in about a week's time?
I hope so, yeah.
Okay.
But,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else?
Any other questions? No? Seeing none. Thank you for that update. Thank you for coming tonight.
All right, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
All right. So, next up on our work session agenda is any update, Chris, on the plan of conservation and development process. I do note that folks received via email a letter from the Conservation Commission, which had a brief attached to it, which has gone to SLR, our consultants, which is our process that we are employing for all of our boards and commissions around town, is to provide their comments or written feedback. It goes to our consultants, and then we then receive it through them. And then the next steps in the process, our consultants, having received those written comments from our boards and commissions, we're going to be scheduling those. We have another open house coming. We have another
Right,
we have
so
one-on-one meetings, or
the first thing that they've scheduled, and the only firm date that I have from them, is the 29th, when they'll do their roundtable discussion. So that's when they would be here for a period from like 1 to 3 or so, to meet with staff who may be in town, and then from 4 to 6 they would have other commission members, or whatever works for people to be able to come in during those time frames. So then they would be going over the steps that they have, the goals that they have, to make sure that those are things that are matching what has come in, or if they need to tweak stuff or whatever.
January 29th.
January 29th. So that's not something that you as commission members are expected to attend. This will be members of SLR who will be here, and meeting in timed intervals with town staff and also boards and commissions as they select.
And the notice will be sent to those boards and commissions of that date and the process?
SLR will let me know how they want that process handled, and I will do that. Yeah. And so then after that occurs, then there will be another public session that will be scheduled, another public house session. So at this point, they're starting to work on goals and steps. They've been reviewing that which is in the existing plan to see, what may have been already accomplished, what needs to get changed, as well as reviewing those recommendations that have come in from the various boards and commissions. And so then they'll go over those also with you as a whole, so that you're aware of all of that. And then there'll be that last public session. Then they'll formulate the plan itself, and then they'll go over that with you. And then at that point, when there's a draft plan that you're content with, It will go to the Board of Selectmen. They have 65 days in which to review it, make comment. They can schedule public hearings if they so choose on it. But at the end of the day, you will also have a public hearing on the whole thing. So the Board of Selectmen can make recommendations to you, and then you'll get your feedback from your own public hearing or hearings, depending on how long that process takes. And the end goal is to have a plan that's updated by May 15th, when your current one expires.
Or as close to that date as we can.
Or as close as possible. And if it needs to run beyond it, they've already explained that, you know, they can do the necessary paperwork to extend that time if they need to.
And just to refresh my recollection, this is a process that we've done before here. It's the process that SLR has used with the other communities that they've worked
Yes, this
for.
is a typical process that goes on for POCDs. It's difficult for many people to understand that under state statute, this is a specific designated function of the planning component of your commission. It falls to you, and obviously you're doing your job and also engaging as much as possible, realistically, the general public and boards and commissions. But it's, your thumbprint is in the end on this plan. And once it's done, it's not the end in sight. It can always be amended, because the last POCD that we had, we amended. So it's not a process that ends with the adoption and then nobody looks at it again for 10 years. It's something that can be updated in between, and it just goes through the same process.
Any questions for Chris on any of our next steps?
It's my understanding that they are getting the map work through from the Council of Governments, which has saved some of the cost burden for the town and having those maps done that way.
I'm sorry, next steps for the POCD?
Yeah.
What are the options for engagement for interested town members or other commissions? I mean, is it sending us letters, or are there other more formal means?
At this stage of the game, until the plan is actually, well, boards and commissions and town staff will have the roundtable to be able to participate in. Then there will be a public forum where everybody will be invited. So they'll be able to do that. It goes to the selectmen. Whether or not they choose or opt to have public hearings is totally up to them. I'm assuming their public hearing process follows the same as we do, where people would be able to submit comment either in writing or in person or both. They will then give their recommendations to you, and then you will again have a public hearing where everybody will be able to come and have their say again. And do it either in writing or whatever, because there will be a 65-day lag time when the plan that's going to public hearing will be presented to the Board of Selectmen. It will also be posted online. It will go to the Council of Governments for them to review. So the public will have a good 2-month period where they'll be able to review a document, and boards and commissions again would have that 2-month time period to be able to look at the document and formulate any comments that they have, and then present them at the public hearing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commission members? Thanks, Chris. Keep us updated, and maybe we'll get a synopsis of the January 29th event at our February meeting.
Yeah, and I think they've got another meeting that they want to schedule with you, but I haven't gotten a date from that on that one yet.
Yeah, so this is part of the thank you in advance for special meetings and off our normal cycle meetings, which will be coming in the next few months.
We were trying to dance around, you know, because January is a month where the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen are having their budget hearings, so they typically take up 2.5 weeks of Tuesday night meetings, so we wanted to be able to do it when people didn't have something else on their plate. So that Wednesday, which is the last week of the month, there shouldn't be any boards or commissions meeting that week, and so we're hoping that works. Barring any snowstorms.
Yeah. And this is not We could come if you
You're
want.
welcome to come,
Yeah.
but it's not, they'll staff it.
So it's my birthday that night, so I'm
Oh,
probably
well,
not.
then,
going to
by all
join.
means.
Yeah. All right.
Pretty good president. Pretty good president.
Bring it, Katie.
Andrew, would you like to, thank you, Andrew, for both sending out the
Yeah,
agenda.
I've found that to be a far more effective way of communicating the business of the Regional Planning Commission, and I will continue to do so rather than boring you by reading from it at this meeting. So I will continue to do so on a monthly basis as soon as I receive those packets.
Appreciate it. Any questions for Andrew on the STROG agenda?
Sorry for what you ask.
Do you reply in writing to questions? So if I send some questions to you, you reply
I
in
won't,
writing?
but staff at SCROG will.
I just want to say for the record, I appreciate your succinct and
Well, yeah, try and do that as well.
Alrighty, Kathy, the Housing Committee.
Well, as previously reported, the Housing Committee has been working on the recommended input to the POCD. So consistent with our affordable housing plan, we did propose.
Here's some.
Oh. I'm sorry. I'll start all over. So as previously reported, we have been working on doing our recommendations for the POCD. And so consistent with our affordable housing plan, we did propose 10 goals, 10-year goals for the POCD, and just to go over the topics, because I know I'm not supposed to get into any detailed presentations since that's going through SLR. And we did, just to back up, we did send our recommendations, our framework to Chris a couple weeks ago, and she forwarded that to SLR. So, the goals include topics such as educational campaigns around affordable housing, proposing zoning changes to increase housing diversity, promoting housing where there's existing infrastructure, leveraging state and federal grants, and forming regional housing partnerships. So I suspect you're going to hear, more details about this once this gets processed through SLR. And as a chair of the Housing Committee, I'm also a member of the Technical Assistance Committee, which is tasked with guiding the redevelopment of the Woodbridge Country Club. And so we did have a meeting on December 11th. And this Technical Assistance Committee is serving as a project resource for, and each respective committee is providing their areas of expertise. And as far as I know, I don't think a follow-up meeting has been scheduled. And I think that is it, if there's any questions.
I'd really like to speak.
I'm
I'm
sorry,
surprised that you're from one committee and not from conservation. Like, why would you hear from one of these committees and not from all of us? It's quite surprising. So can you explain that to us?
This is not a public comment
I know,
portion.
but
We're in our
you're
business
asking
meeting.
specifically for one person's input from there, and you're not asking for conservation or sustainability, and I just don't understand it, and I'd like you to address that to me at some later date. Or now.
It seems really inappropriate. This is a very, very brief overview of what I did. This is a.
Kathy, we're actually not having this conversation. We're moving on.
Okay, sorry.
But it does need to
So
be addressed.
next up is the report of our zoning enforcement officer, Chris.
I've been running around town picking up signs, and that's pretty much it. People complain all the time about the clean gutter signs, that we hang Christmas tree light signs and all that stuff. So, where I can safely do it, and I run around and pick them up. Other than that, we did have someone who was interested in doing opportunity housing, which I've mentioned before, at 8 Hazel Terrace, which is a former office building. That may or may not be coming before you. I'm not sure yet at this stage of the game. Apparently, the site is in arrear with taxes, so I'm not sure where it's sitting, but it may be coming before you That will also, if it does come in, it will have to get referred to the Council of Governments because that is within, again, the 500 feet of another municipality. So that one might be coming.
That's the one that's next to the foundation that isn't built.
No, there's the foundation, and then there's a house, and this is
Okay.
before them.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is next to the substation.
I know where that is, yeah.
Yeah.
Number 8, you said?
Number 8, yeah. It used to be an office building. We've been chasing it because they've
Yeah.
had debris from sites that were not in Woodbridge brought
It's an
there.
eyesore, the whole thing. The parking lot's falling apart. I walk up there
Is
with
this
my kids.
behind the
Yep.
grocery, the
Yeah.
ambient plaza?
Yeah.
It's directly behind
But in
that-
Woodbridge.
the bowling alley
But it's in
plaza.
Woodbridge, yeah.
Oh, it's,
So June Street comes in
Hazel
from
Terrace,
Amity,
yeah.
and then Hazel parallels Selden. So
There's a
this
s-
is the first office building
There's a larger office building up the at the end
up
of
the
the
hill.
street.
This
which
is not
has
the larger building,
social
this is a
services
smaller
and some
one.
other
This is
things
a
in it.
two-story building. And what they said when they came in was that they potentially would have 12 units, of which 4 would be affordable. So I
Someone
don't
just
even
re-
know that
yeah.
it's gonna come at this stage of the game,
Someone
but
just rehabbed a house across the street from it.
correct.
Did a nice job there.
So you may be yet seeing another opportunity housing coming in. Other than that, we've had people inquiring about uses for Citizens Bank. Most of them have centered on liquor package stores, but because of the presence of the teen center behind it, that negates that. Same thing when people were asking about having a cannabis facility there.
Yeah.
Negates it because of the separation distance can't be met there. So there are businesses that are trying to come. They don't always mesh with what happens in the regulations.
I saw our gas station looks close to being done.
The
There's-
gas station looks close for being done, and I got a phone call this morning from the state DOT. Apparently, even though I had told them that they needed to go to the state DOT for a second curb cut, they did not go to the state for a second curb cut. And so the state is now making them come to them before they will allow them to open.
They were
So,
stocking food in the mini mart inside, I saw. So
so,
hopefully it doesn't expire before they.
Food only.
the state
Food
will
only,
do what
yes.
the state does best, but apparently they noticed that one when they were looking at the other one that's going in New Haven on the other side of the Merritt Parkway.
Yeah, a
So
lot of gas
apparently at
stations.
that point, some inspector drove up Amity Road and said, oh,
I think
is
that'll
this?
lower the price of gasoline.
Good luck.
I don't think supply and demand applies to gasoline.
So that's,
Any accessory dwelling units?
no new ones, no. But I have people who come and talk all the time. There is a tract of property off of Seymour Road. It's rather interesting. It has an extensive crossing of wetlands to get in from Seymour. And the asking price is very low for Woodbridge. But once you cross the wetlands, then you get into a very steep slope. So many people have been looking at it because of the price to figure out what family enclaves they could make there, but I'm not even sure that it's capable of supporting one, let alone the crossing that has to be done. It's an odd thing because there's about 160 feet of crossing of wetlands that would be on state-owned property, and then there would be an additional 140 feet or so on the property itself of wetlands. And then once you get in, then it goes up like 140 feet. Not straight, pretty straight, so. I don't know what will happen with that.
Has there been any applications for like 2 units or duplexes or?
People
Anything like that?
talked about maybe doing duplexes there on 110 Luciani. His intent is to do a two-family in both of the houses that are there, which is always been an allowed use in that district, but he is gonna do a two-family on each of the 2 parcels that he has there. But nothing else really.
Any other questions for Chris? All right, we had the December 2nd and the,
And then you had that special Zoom meeting on December 18th, which I thought I brought up that I didn't bring up. But that was just where you moved to go into executive session and you moved to go out of executive session.
so which minutes do we have in front of us?
December
You have-
2nd is here, right?
December 2nd is there, those were the more lengthy ones.
And I don't think we have December 11th even.
That one, I wrote that, and then it dawned on me, that was the meeting that got canceled, because, I don't know why it got canceled. It was gonna be part of a Board of Selectmen meeting, and then
Oh.
they changed it
And
into
then they
the
made
Zoom
the
meeting.
18th. Gotcha.
That was with the attorney, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have any minutes, I'll just post a notice that says meeting was
Gotcha.
canceled.
All right,
Chris, on the December 2nd ones, I was opposed, I didn't abstain.
Okay.
Thank you.
so with that edit, I'll move to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 2nd.
Second.
So Paul had an edit, Chris, which
Right.
you now have.
Yep.
Any other edits? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstaining?
I abstain, I was not here.
Okay. And then we don't have the December 18th.
I
minutes,
sent
'cause they-
them to you electronically, but
Oh.
you don't have to act on them because they're not a big deal. And as long as the drafts are in, that's the important thing.
Hey, we could act on them though.
Yeah, you can.
All right, I'll move to approve the minutes from the special meeting of December 18th.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions?
Abstain.
Yeah. Abstain, abstain, abstain. You know,
I can't remember if I was here. Was I here?
I don't know, I
It was on
wasn't,
Zoom.
I wasn't
The
here.
Zoom
I
was-
was,
You were there.
You were there.
I was doing
I was-
wetlands.
oh,
You were
yeah.
there for the first part, I think?
Oh, I was there for the whole
Most of
thing.
it. It was multi-hour, I thought it was gonna be like 45 minutes.
I brought drinks, but not to share.
So we voted those yes.
Yes.
All right. Anything else? No?
I'll keep you posted on, the next thing that SLR has for you. So just thank you for all for, when I send stuff out, reviewing it and getting your comments back to me. I do forward all those back to SLR. He deeply appreciates your feedback. And they were very happy to get the comments that they did receive from the different boards and commissions who submitted them, so. I think sustainability, there's one that's outstanding, and whenever it comes, they will take it, they will review it, and,
All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Nope.
Wait a minute.
Can we talk about this letter from Poaching Yay?
Oh, so I gave it to you because I wasn't sure it referenced Litchfield Turnpike. I did email him and let him know that this evening that application was just getting received, that he hadn't missed anything, that he was welcome to email me tomorrow, or I can just email him and let him know when the public hearing will be, that he can make additional comment or whatever. But when I was reading it the second time and I saw the reference to Litchfield Turnpike, I said, I don't know if it's this for toll, because it didn't say specifically. So that's why I distributed it this evening. So you will see it again on March 3rd.
Okay. What about this statement? I mean, I don't know if there's any merit. The public hearing on December 2nd was not legal, did not adequately notify residents.
There has been a lot of comment and a lot of flack that I have gotten on that. It was duly noticed. I asked for it to be published on a Friday. Apparently it was published on a Thursday, which happened to be Thanksgiving. The state statutes are very specific. They give you time frames for when you publish. They are silent on whether or not if you publish on a holiday or whatnot, if that's something that's not copacetic. So it's something that's been circulating. After your decision was made, there was quite an uproar of people calling that this was all done in quasi-secrecy with no people knowing, even though for 2 months you had discussion preliminary, whatever you want to call it, discussion with these people. That was all recorded. It was all listed on your minutes, in your minutes. It was listed on your agendas. Your hearing was listed in the agenda. It was published. And then there was a decision notice on the things, and no one appealed. So at this stage of the game, those regs that you changed are in place. I have been asked to go to the Board of Selectmen on Wednesday night to explain not only to the Board of Selectmen, but to the town, what your changes were to the regs. So I will be going to the Board of Selectmen's meeting on Wednesday night to explain the 4 changes that were made because of those regs, and also update them on where the POCD is. And again, you know, the only date certain that I have at this stage of the game is the 29th, when the roundtables will be, you know, unless some other date comes up between now and this Wednesday. I won't have another date to give them. But, you know, I will be there.
Maybe you'll get free dinner.
I would like to just go home.
Where,
Can't help you.
where are the notifications of our meetings or upcoming hearings published or
They are
circulated?
required to be published in a newspaper of general circulation in town. So people say, how many people get it? It's not part of the statute. I understand the statute, and at this stage of the game, it's a statute that needs to get addressed by the legislature. So the newspaper that we have that has general circulation in Woodbridge, that has the spacing that's required for, like when you do a hearing notice, you have to space it twice. Decision notices, you only do once. But you don't, in my head, do notices in one place for one thing and another place for another thing. So I've been here since 2000, and since at least 2000, the register has been where they've all been. Clearly, there are many people that don't get the register. Clearly, there are many people that don't read anything and just get their news off whatever. But I have to do what the statute says. So it gets listed on the agenda, and then it gets posted to the register. And those postings are not cheap. I mean, they're $400 or $500, $600 to do, you know, a legal advertisement where we're required to do it. I frankly don't know what other alternative there is. There have been people who have complained that the first selectman has not been more vocal in announcing this. And I can't speak for what his obligation is or is not. You know, if people are interested, I sit in an office all day. I have an email, I have a phone, people leave messages. And I always tell them, if there's something of interest to you, here are the meeting dates of that particular group. Call me the day before or the week before to see what's on there. But I always let them know that at a regular meeting, something can get added, which we don't know. But you can't make a list of who to call about something, because then Paul wants me to call him about something else. Why didn't I call him? And so, to me, the onus rests with the people of the town who are interested in something. And, you know, they're more than welcome to call or email. And I have people that do that. I mean, look at Rosalie. Rosalie comes and calls all the time. And that's exactly what I'm there for. And so, I mean, she does, you know, she's got something of particular interest to her. And give her due credit. She asks about it. And she comes in and she looks at the file. And, you know, we're there. I mean, in this particular case with the one that you just got, all that stuff's going to go on the town website. There's no ifs, ands, or buts that it's not going to go on there. And we did this with other large applications that we've had. But at this point, honestly, it's getting frustrating because so many people want to have more input than statutorily they have. And I am a diehard for looking at the statute and saying, this is your framework. So that's all I can tell you. You know, people weren't happy. Sorry they weren't happy. But it was done properly. Wasn't done in violation of state statute. Nobody appealed, those regs stand.
Are the notifications concurrently posted on the town website, or are things posted later? Like,
What do you mean?
Well, if you're gonna post a notice in the register, does it
I
also?
don't put it on the town website, no.
Okay.
No, and Ben, we've been following the process that we've been following for 20-plus years, which is the notice in newspaper and the uploading of our agendas to.
I mean, your meetings are all broadcast, and they're broadcast live.
Is
I
it
get
diff-
enough people that tell
Would it
me
be
that they
difficult to
saw
put a
some
notice
people.
on the website?
Huh?
Because, 20 years ago, newspapers had a different meaning than they do now, right? I mean, more people received the newspaper, more people read the newspaper. Is it difficult to also put a notice on the town website? Because it sounds like there are people in town who are concerned about the process, and if we all agree, maybe we don't all agree, that the New Haven Register is
I have to publish in the register. I can't get around that.
sure.
So if you want to make a change, I would suggest that you verify that with town council to make sure that you're not doing something that will get you into a kettle of fish.
So,
Where's your dinner?
wait, just so I understand, my question was, is it possible to also post a notice on the town website when publishing it in the register?
And
Does anybody?
that's what I
Yeah.
just said.
And does
I
anybody imagine a circumstance in which that would get us into a kettle of fish, posting a notice on the town website?
That would be a change in our practices and procedures. That we probably need more discussion on, probably with the advice of our council than.
I mean, I can definitely contact town council and ask him the simple question.
Do we have
And if he
adequate
doesn't have an issue,
tech support to do that? I mean, do we have the IT person that'll do that? I'm trying to understand what the resistance to the question is. It's a completely free, essentially free, basically free thing to do. And in the interest of being more transparent and creating opportunities for input and collaboration where people are asking for it, I'm not sure what the harm would be.
so I don't know where you would put it. Do you, I mean, and that's a question to ask town council. Does the town I'm sorry. Does the town want to create a page that's a notice page? Because we're not the only board or commission that does stuff. And is that something that's appropriate? So it's a simple question to ask. It's something I certainly can ask. And, I can give him the discussion that you've had tonight and get back to you for the next meeting.
That's a great idea.
I mean, it might be that, right now you have that center page where they pick different things to put up on the front page that are newsworthy. Maybe they simply create a notice page, although they have a page where, all the meetings and whatnot are. But perhaps they create another page that's a public notice page. So it lists decisions of this, that, or the other things, or whatever actions may require. I mean, you've got the tax collector that has a very lengthy thing that she has to publish. There's the assessor's office that also has lengthy things that they have to publish. So it may be a place for those to go, in addition to where it's required by statute.
Sure.
Rather than dumping it on the planning and zoning page, which is the only page I'm authorized to put anything on.
Sure. I agree. It sounds like an issue maybe more for the first selectman at the Board of Selectmen, but it's a pretty easy lift, and I think,
So it's,
You know.
I mean, certainly the text that gets done is the text is, from my aspect, the text is already written. It's just a matter of.
comply with the law, but what we're trying to see is maybe is there more notification
Yeah.
for us to take a look at. But I certainly agree, Chris, that you notice our meetings correctly, and certainly note that. And we appreciate it. We're consistent with the law. But people just read newspapers less than they used to in the past. So maybe there's
I-
something we
I'm
should
fully
take a
aware of
look
it. I'd
at.
share
So
another-
Chris, I'd like you to please text out and tweet our meetings every time we
That's a
have
good
it
idea.
out on Twitter.
I
That's
don't
a
do
little
that.
Irish humor, okay?
Okay.
But, you know, maybe there should be an update to it a little bit.
And I will, you know.
Yeah, and if just ask the attorney, see if that's the case.
I'll ask attorney and
if
I'll-
we're not supposed to do that because we could get violation of something, then we should know that too.
Yeah, so I'll ask town council and I'll CC the first selectman on it and we'll go from there.
Sure,
I mean, the web page doesn't cost anything.
Right,
It's there.
right.
But I have to tell you, there's a lot of people that don't read that either.
Is there information in the notices that's not in our agenda that's posted on our website?
No, basically what you see listed, although sometimes because we get charged so much money for doing this, you try to consolidate
There's a lot
a
of
little bit of
abbreviations,
stuff.
yeah.
But you have to be able to give people an idea of what's happening.
But having a central place for all the town notices on the website is probably, I think we should explore, it's a good suggestion.
But again, that's not something that.
No, it's not.
I think it's zoning.
No, of course, we can recommend to the first selectman, and I agree that the strictures of notice requirements and all of our procedures, we have to continue to follow and make sure we don't endanger, because that's how our decisions have stick, is if anything, if we don't follow those, then any decision can come, can be challenged on any grounds. So, yeah, getting the input of the attorneys. But, yeah, obviously, it's not even up to us, so. But,
So I will do that and I will
Thank you.
report back to you whatever I hear.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Can I move again to adjourn?
Yeah.
Or am I gonna get shut down? Move to adjourn.
I will second it. Moved and seconded, any discussion, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions?
There you go.
Good night, everyone. Thank
do you want us to leave these plans?
Yes.